The Velthari Dominion had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. Their empire covered 900 worlds across the Orion arm of the galaxy. No species had ever challenged them and lived. No fleet had ever stood against them and survived. They were the masters of all they touched, and they touched everything. In the great council chamber on their home world, the High Lords gathered around a table made of crystal and light. The room was vast, with walls that showed the endless black of space. Stars moved slowly across those walls, each one a reminder of their power. They owned those stars. They owned the darkness between them. "A new species," said High Lord Ketharan. His voice was deep and cold, like stone grinding against stone. "They call themselves humans. They come from a small yellow star at the edge of our territory." The other lords looked at the images floating above the table. Small ships, primitive technology, weak bodies covered in soft skin. The humans looked fragile, like creatures that would break at the slightest touch. "They have only just learned to travel between their own planets," Ketharan continued. "Their weapons are crude. Their ships are slow. They pose no threat to us." "Then why do you bring this matter before the council?" asked Lady Vorzena. She was ancient, even by Velthari standards. Her eyes had seen 1,000 species rise and fall. "Because they are spreading," Ketharan replied. "They have established colonies on 3 worlds already. They breed quickly. They build quickly. If we wait, they will become a nuisance. Better to crush them now, while they are still weak." The lords murmured in agreement. This was the way of things. The strong ruled. The weak served or died. It was simple. It was natural. It was the only truth the universe respected. In the corner of the chamber stood 7 figures who had not spoken. They did not need to speak. Everyone knew who they were. Everyone felt their presence like a weight pressing down on their souls. The Ascended. They were the greatest warriors the Velthari had ever produced. Each one had been transformed through ancient rituals and forbidden science. They could not die. They could not be defeated. They had conquered over 200 species across 10,000 years. Entire civilizations had surrendered at the mere mention of their names. Commander Zethari was the youngest among them, though she was already 800 years old. She watched the images of the human ships with curiosity. There was something about these creatures that caught her attention. She could not say what it was. Perhaps it was the way they moved through space, carefully but without fear. Perhaps it was something else entirely. "We will send the Ascended," the High Council decided. "Let them deal with these humans. It will be over quickly." The 7 immortal warriors bowed their heads in acceptance. This was what they existed for. This was their purpose. They would travel to the human home world. They would show these creatures the true nature of power. And then, like all the others before them, the humans would kneel or cease to exist. Far across the galaxy, in a place the Velthari had never heard of, a woman named Laura Bennett stood on the bridge of her ship. She was an admiral in Earth's first fleet, though the title meant little in a navy that had never fought a real war. Her ship, the Starward, was the pride of human engineering. It could travel faster than anything humans had ever built before. Laura looked out at the stars and felt a familiar sense of wonder. She had grown up on a farm in Kansas, watching the night sky and dreaming of distant worlds. Now she lived among those worlds. She had walked on the red soil of Mars and felt the ice of Europa beneath her feet. The universe was vast and beautiful and terrifying, and she loved every part of it. "Admiral," said her communications officer, a young man named Danny Cole, "we're picking up some strange readings from the outer system." "I've never seen anything like this." Laura walked over to his station and looked at the data. There was something out there, beyond the orbit of Neptune. Something big. Something that was moving toward them. "Can you identify it?" she asked. Danny shook his head. "No, ma'am. But whatever it is, it's not natural. And it's heading straight for us." On Earth, in a research facility hidden in the Nevada desert, Dr. Sam Hartley was working late. He was always working late. His wife had left him because of it. His friends had stopped calling. But Sam did not mind. The universe was full of secrets, and he had dedicated his life to uncovering them. His equipment picked up a signal that night. It came from deep space, from a direction no human ship had ever traveled. The signal was complex and structured. It was not random noise. It was not a natural phenomenon. It was a message. Sam played the signal through his computers and watched as patterns emerged. His hands began to shake. His heart beat faster. In all his years of searching, he had never found proof that humanity was not alone. Now that proof was staring him in the face. He picked up his phone and called Captain Jake Morrison, the commander of the research station's security forces. Jake was a practical man, a former Marine who believed in things he could see and touch. He did not believe in aliens or conspiracies or things that went bump in the night. But when he arrived at Sam's lab and saw the data, even Jake could not deny what was in front of him. "How long until they get here?" Jake asked. Sam ran the calculations. His face went pale. "Based on their current speed and trajectory, they'll reach Earth in approximately 3 weeks. Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "We need to tell someone. We need to warn people." "Warn them about what?" Sam replied. "We don't know what's coming. We don't know if they're friendly or hostile. We don't know anything." "Then I guess we'll find out," Jake said. He looked at the signal pulsing on the screen, that message from across the stars. "One way or another, we'll find out." Neither of them could have imagined what was truly coming. Neither of them could have known that the most powerful beings in the galaxy were about to descend upon their small blue world. And neither of them could have guessed that those beings would never return home. The gathering had begun. The Ascended were coming. And the universe was about to learn that some prey should never be hunted. The Eternal Throne entered the Sol system on a Tuesday morning. It was the largest object any human had ever seen that was not a planet or a moon. The ship was dark and terrible, covered in spines and towers that seemed to grow from its surface like bones pushing through skin. It blocked out the sun as it passed Jupiter, casting a shadow across the gas giant's swirling storms. Every telescope on Earth turned toward it. Every satellite adjusted its sensors. Every human who looked up at the sky felt something cold settle in their chest. They did not need scientists to tell them what they were seeing. They knew. Something had come for them. The message arrived moments later. It played on every radio, every television, every phone, and computer on the planet. It spoke in perfect English, perfect Mandarin, perfect Spanish, and Arabic, and every other language humans had ever created. The voice was deep and without emotion, like a machine reading words it did not understand. "People of Earth, we are the Veltari Dominion. We have ruled the stars for 12,000 years. You are now within our territory. You will surrender your world and your species to our control. You will serve the Dominion in whatever capacity we require. Resistance is not possible. Defiance will result in extinction. You have one rotation of your planet to respond." The message ended. Silence fell across the world. In the United Nations building in New York, Secretary General Claire Dawson stood before a room full of terrified diplomats. She was a small woman with gray hair and steady hands. She had survived 3 assassination attempts, 2 civil wars, and a battle with cancer that had nearly killed her. Fear was something she understood, but she had never let it control her. "We need to respond," said the ambassador from China. "We need to buy time." "Buy time for what?" asked the ambassador from Russia. "You saw the size of that ship. What can we possibly do against something like that?" Claire raised her hand for silence. The room went quiet. When she spoke, her voice was calm and clear. "We will respond," she said, "but we will not surrender, and we will not beg. We will speak to them as equals, because that is what we are. We are a species that has crawled out of the mud and reached for the stars. We have earned our place in this universe. No one gave it to us. We took it, and I will not hand it over to anyone, no matter how big their ship is." She walked to the podium and activated the broadcast system. Her face appeared on every screen on Earth, right next to the shadow of the alien vessel. "This is Secretary General Claire Dawson speaking on behalf of the human race. We have received your message. We request a dialogue. We believe that communication is preferable to conflict. We are willing to talk, to listen, and to find a peaceful solution. But we will not surrender our world or our freedom. That is not who we are." On the eternal throne, the 7 Ascended watched this broadcast with amusement. They sat in a chamber filled with trophies from their conquests. Weapons, flags, skulls of leaders who had tried to resist them. The walls were decorated with the symbols of fallen civilizations. Vorkan the Undying laughed. It was a sound like thunder rolling through empty halls. He was the oldest of the Ascended, the first to undergo the transformation. His body was covered in scars from battles fought before human civilization existed. His eyes glowed with a cold blue light. "They wish to negotiate," he said. "How delightful. I cannot remember the last time Prey tried to bargain." "It has been 400 years, said Sirathos. She was tall and elegant, with silver hair that flowed like water. "The Cathari tried to offer us tribute. We burned their worlds anyway." "These humans are different," said Commander Zethari quietly. The others turned to look at her. "I have been studying them. They have only been in space for a short time, but they have already survived things that should have destroyed them. Wars, diseases, environmental collapse. They keep going. They never stop." "Survival is not strength," Vorkan said dismissively. "Cockroaches survive. That does not make them worthy of respect." He stood and walked to the viewing window. Earth hung in the distance, a blue and white jewel against the black. It was beautiful, he admitted. Many of the worlds they had conquered were beautiful. Beauty did not save them. "I will demonstrate our power," he announced. "These creatures need to understand what they face." He raised his hand and reached out with his mind. The Ascended did not need weapons. Their thoughts were weapons. Their will could move mountains and crack planets. They had been given power that lesser beings could not comprehend. One of Jupiter's moons began to shake. Cracks spread across its surface. Then, in a flash of light that was visible from Earth, it shattered into 1 billion pieces, an entire world destroyed in an instant. "There," Vorkan said. "Now they understand." On the lunar colony, Pete Callahan watched the destruction through the observation window. He was an engineer, a man who built things for a living. He had spent 20 years constructing habitats and machines that helped humanity spread across the solar system. Now he was watching something destroy with a thought what would have taken him a lifetime to create. His daughter Meg stood beside him. She wore the uniform of the Earth Defense Corps, a military force that had never fought a real battle. Her squadron was on standby, waiting for orders that everyone knew would mean their deaths. "Dad," she said softly, "I have to go." Pete turned to her. His eyes were wet. "I know. We can't beat them. You know that." "Right? Our weapons, our ships. They're nothing compared to what they have." "I know." Meg hugged him. She was 30 years old, but in that moment she felt like the little girl who used to sit on his lap and ask him about the stars. "Then, why are you letting me go?" she whispered. Pete held her tight. "Because you're human," he said, "and humans don't surrender. We never have. We never will. It's not in our nature." Meg pulled back and looked at her father. She saw no fear in his eyes, only pride and love and something else, something that burned like a quiet fire. She walked to the door and stopped. Without turning around, she said, "I love you, Dad. I love you too, sweetheart. Give them hell." The door closed behind her. Pete turned back to the window and watched the debris of the shattered moon drift through space. Somewhere out there, the most powerful beings in the galaxy were coming to destroy everything he loved. He smiled. They had no idea what they were walking into. The Eternal Throne crossed the asteroid belt on the 5th day of its journey into the Sol system. It moved slowly now, not because it needed to, but because Vorkon wanted the humans to watch. He wanted them to see their doom approaching. He wanted their fear to grow with each passing hour. But something was wrong. Sirathos had been standing at the observation deck, watching the distant blue dot that was Earth. She had destroyed civilizations older than human history. She had stood on the corpses of kings and emperors. Nothing in the universe had ever made her feel uncertain. Until now. She could not explain what was happening inside her mind. It was like a whisper she could not quite hear, a shadow she could not quite see. For the first time in 6,000 years, she felt something she did not recognize. Doubt. "Sirathos," Vorkon's voice echoed through the chamber. "Report to the war room. We are planning the final approach." She did not respond. "Sirathos?" The other Ascended turned to look at her. She was standing completely still, her silver hair hanging motionless around her face. Her eyes were open, but they were looking at something far away, something the others could not see. Then she was gone. There was no flash of light, no sound, no warning. One moment she was there, and the next she simply was not. The space where she had stood was empty. Commander Zethari rushed to the spot. She scanned with her senses, reaching out with powers that could detect the smallest particle of matter across vast distances. She found nothing. Sirathos had not teleported. She had not been transported. She had simply ceased to exist. "What happened?" demanded Vorkon. His voice was loud, but there was something beneath it that the others had never heard before. Uncertainty. "I do not know," Zethari admitted. "She is gone, completely gone. There is no trace of her anywhere." The remaining 6, Ascended, looked at each other. For the first time in millennia, they did not know what to do. "Continue the mission," Vorkon ordered. "We will investigate later. The humans must be dealt with first." But his words did not carry the same weight they once had. Something had changed. Something had entered their perfect confidence, like a crack in ancient stone. The ship continued toward Earth. 2 days later, they reached Mars. The red planet hung in space like a drop of blood against black velvet. Human colonies dotted its surface, small domes of light in a desert of rust and rock. Tethras and Kelmore, 2 Ascended who had fought side by side for 3,000 years, were discussing the plan of attack. They stood in the command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing Earth's defensive positions. Their fleet is gathering near their moon, Tethras observed. Perhaps 100 ships. Pathetic. We should destroy them before we reach the planet, Kelmore suggested. A demonstration of... He stopped. Tethras looked at him. A demonstration of what? Tethras asked. Kelmore's face was strange. His eyes were wide, looking at something Tethras could not see. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Then he was gone, just like Sirathos. One moment there, the next moment nothing. Tethras stumbled backward. His hand went to his weapon, but there was nothing to fight. There was no enemy. There was only absence. "Vorkon!" he shouted. "Vorkon! Kelmore has—" He never finished the sentence. Between one breath and the next, Tethras vanished as well. On Earth, Dr. Beth Nguyen sat in the Global Defense Initiative headquarters, watching her monitors. She was a physicist who had spent her career studying things most people thought were impossible. Now she was watching the impossible happen in real time. "The alien ship has stopped," she reported to General Chris Hartman. "It's been stationary for 6 hours. The general was a large man with a face like carved wood. He had fought in 3 wars before the aliens arrived. He knew how to read a battlefield, how to sense when something was about to change. "Why would they stop?" he asked. "I don't know, but look at these readings." Beth pointed to her screen. "Their power signature is fluctuating. It's unstable. Something is happening on that ship." Chris stared at the data. He did not understand most of it, but he understood the pattern. He had seen it before, in enemies who were suddenly unsure of themselves. "Hold all forces," he ordered. "Tell everyone to maintain position. Do not engage. Do not provoke." "Sir, some of our pilots are requesting permission to—" "No." Chris's voice was firm. "We wait. Whatever is happening out there, we let it happen. Sometimes the best thing you can do in a fight is nothing at all." Meg Callahan received the order in her cockpit. Her squadron was floating in formation near the moon, watching the massive alien ship through their targeting systems. Every instinct told her to attack, to do something, anything, but she had learned to trust orders. She opened a channel to her wingman, a pilot named Tony Vega. "Tony, you seeing this?" "Yeah," Tony replied. "They've just been sitting there. You think they're planning something?" "I don't know, but something feels different. I can't explain it." On the Eternal Throne, Vorkon was facing a nightmare he had never imagined possible. 4 of his warriors were gone. 4 ascended, beings who could not be killed, had simply disappeared. No enemy, no weapon, no force in the universe had ever done this. He stood in the center of the command room, surrounded by the remaining 3 ascended, Zethari, Mornkai, and Rethvos. They were all silent, all watching him, waiting for him to speak. "We should retreat," Zethari said quietly. "Something here is wrong. We should return to the Dominion and—" "No!" Vorkon's voice shook the walls. "We do not retreat. We have never retreated. We are the Ascended." "We are also dying," Mornkai said. He was the largest of them, a warrior who had once torn a warship apart with his bare hands. Now his voice was small and afraid. "Whatever is killing us, we cannot fight it. We cannot even see it." Vorkon turned to look at Earth. That small blue world, home to creatures that lived for less than a century, creatures that could not even survive in the vacuum of space without protection. How could they be doing this? How could they be responsible? He reached out with his mind, trying to touch the thoughts of the humans below. He had done this 1,000 times before with other species. It was how the Ascended dominated. They entered the minds of their enemies and broke them from within. He touched the first human mind, and for a single moment before he pulled back in shock, he saw something looking back at him, something ancient, something that had been waiting. The Velthari High Council had not known fear for 10,000 years. They had built an empire on the bones of lesser species. They had watched their enemies burn and felt nothing but satisfaction. Fear was something they caused, not something they experienced, until the silence began. Lord Ketharan stood before the communication array, waiting for a response that would not come. He had been trying to contact the Eternal Throne for 3 days. The ship was still there. Their long-range sensors confirmed it. But no one answered. No voice, no signal, no sign of life. "Send a probe," Lady Vorzena ordered. "We need to know what happened." The probe was launched immediately. It was small and fast, designed to gather information and transmit it back across the vast distances of space. It reached the Sol system in less than a day and approached the Eternal Throne. What it found made the Council fall silent. The ship was intact, its systems were running, its weapons were powered. But there was no one aboard. Every chamber was empty. Every corridor was abandoned. The 7 Ascended, the most powerful warriors in the history of the Dominion, had vanished without a trace. Except for one thing. The probe found a recording stored in the ship's memory banks. It was a final transmission from Vorkon the Undying, the leader of the Ascended. His face appeared on the screen, and for the first time in his eternal existence, he looked afraid. "This message is for the High Council," Vorkon said. His voice was shaking. Behind him, the command room was empty. He was alone. "I do not have much time. They are taking us one by one. We cannot stop it. We cannot fight it. We do not even understand it." He paused and looked over his shoulder, as if expecting something to appear behind him. "We made a mistake," he continued. "These humans are not what they appear to be. They look weak. They seem primitive. But there is something inside them, something buried deep in their minds, something that remembers." His eyes widened. Whatever he was seeing, it terrified him. "When I tried to enter their thoughts, to dominate them as we have dominated all others, I saw it. It has no name, it has no form, but it has been waiting. It has been waiting for us, for anything that would try to conquer humanity. It is their guardian, their weapon, their curse." Vorkon's body began to flicker, like a candle flame in a strong wind. "Do not send more warriors. Do not seek revenge. Leave these creatures alone. Leave their system. Leave them to their small world and their short lives. Because if you come for them again, you will find what we found, and you will cease to exist, just as we are ceasing to exist." He looked directly into the recorder. His face was twisted with an emotion no Ascended had ever shown. "They are not prey," he whispered. "They are something else entirely. And now I understand. We were never the hunters. We were the ones being hunted. We just did not know it until we found them." The transmission ended. Vorkon was gone. On Earth, the world was holding its breath. The alien ship had been silent for a week. No threats, no demands, no attacks. It simply sat there, dark and motionless, drifting slowly toward the sun. Dr. Sam Hartley worked day and night, trying to understand what had happened. He analyzed every piece of data, every signal, every fragment of information he could find. And slowly, a theory began to form in his mind. He called a meeting with Secretary General Claire Dawson and General Chris Hartman. Dr. Beth Nguyen was there too, along with Captain Jake Morrison and a dozen other scientists and military leaders. They gathered in a secure room deep beneath the Nevada desert. "I think I know what happened to them," Sam said. He looked tired. He had not slept in days. "The aliens tried to read our minds. That's how they conquer species. They enter their thoughts and break their will. But when they entered human minds, they found something unexpected. What did they find? Claire asked. Sam hesitated. I'm not sure how to explain it, but humans are different from other species. We've been through things that should have destroyed us. Ice ages, plagues, wars that killed millions. We faced extinction over and over again. And we've survived every time. That survival left marks on us, deep marks, in our DNA, in our collective unconscious, in the very structure of our minds. He pulled up a display showing brain scans and genetic data. There's something in there, he continued, a kind of psychic defense mechanism. We don't know we have it. We can't control it. But when something tries to invade our minds, tries to dominate us, it activates. And whatever it shows the invader, whatever it makes them see, it destroys them. The room was quiet. Everyone was trying to understand what Sam was saying. So, we killed them, General Hartman said slowly. Without weapons, without even knowing we were doing it. Not exactly, Sam replied. We didn't kill them. They killed themselves. When they looked into our minds, they saw something they couldn't handle. Maybe they saw the truth about what they were. Maybe they saw the suffering they had caused. Maybe they saw something even worse. Whatever it was, they couldn't survive it. Claire Dawson stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was setting over the desert, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Millions of years of evolution, she said quietly. Thousands of years of history. Every war we fought. Every plague we survived. Every moment of pain and triumph and loss. It all built something inside us. A fortress. A weapon. A mirror. She turned back to the room. We are not just a species, she said. We are the sum of everything we have endured. And when these aliens came to destroy us, they were destroyed by the very thing that makes us human. Our suffering. Our survival. Our refusal to give up no matter how bad things get. Beth Nguyen looked at the data on her screen. The question now is, what do we do next? There's an empty alien warship drifting toward the sun, a ship filled with technology we've never seen. And somewhere out there, an entire empire is probably wondering what happened to their warriors. Jake Morrison, who had been silent throughout the meeting, finally spoke. We do what we've always done, he said. We survive, we learn, we adapt, and we get ready for whatever comes next. He looked at the faces around the room. Scientists, soldiers, leaders. Ordinary humans who had just witnessed something extraordinary. Because something tells me this is just the beginning. 5 years had passed since the day the Ascended came to Earth and disappeared forever. 5 years of change, of growth, of humanity reaching toward a future no one had imagined possible. The Eternal Throne had been captured before it could drift into the sun. Teams of engineers and scientists had spent months exploring its corridors, studying its technology, learning its secrets. What they found changed everything. Faster than light travel. Energy weapons that made nuclear bombs look like fireworks. Medical technology that could cure diseases humans had fought for centuries. The Ascended had been monsters, but they had been brilliant monsters. Their knowledge pushed humanity forward by 1,000 years in a single leap. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon, humanity's first interstellar warship. He was older now, with gray in his hair and lines on his face, but his eyes were the same as they had always been, sharp, alert, ready for whatever the universe might throw at him. Admiral, we're approaching the Velthari border, reported his navigation officer, a young woman named Lisa Park. Jake nodded. All stations maintain alert status. We're not here to start a fight, but we'll finish one if we have to. The horizon dropped out of faster-than-light travel and emerged in a system filled with wreckage. Destroyed ships floated in the void. Broken stations drifted among fields of debris. Whatever had happened here, it had been devastating. "Sir," said Communications Officer Danny Cole, the same Danny Cole who had first detected the Ascended 5 years ago. "We're being hailed. Multiple frequencies. They're not attacking. They're asking for help." Jake looked at the screen. A dozen different species appeared, each one sending the same message in different languages. "Help us. Please help us." "Open a channel," Jake said. The face that appeared was not Velthari. It was something else, a creature with 4 eyes and blue skin, wearing the tattered remains of what had once been a military uniform. "Human vessel," the creature said. "I am Commander Silvar, of the Tathian Republic. We were slaves of the Velthari Dominion for 800 years. When the Ascended vanished, the Dominion fell into chaos. Civil war, rebellion, collapse." Silvar's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. "We have heard stories about your species," she continued. "Stories that say you destroyed the Ascended without weapons, without ships, without armies. We did not believe them. We thought they were myths. But here you are. And we need your help." Jake was quiet for a moment. Behind him, his crew waited. On the screens around the bridge, the faces of a dozen species watched, each one hoping for something they had not known in generations. Freedom. "We're not here to conquer you," Jake said slowly. "We're not here to rule you. We're here because we're curious. We want to explore. We want to learn. We want to find our place in this galaxy." He paused. "But if you need help, we'll help. That's what humans do. We help each other. And now I guess we'll help you too." Back on Earth, Dr. Beth Nguyen published her findings. After years of research, she finally understood what had happened to the Ascended. Her paper was called The Mirror Effect, and it became the most read scientific document in human history. Human beings, she explained, possessed a unique psychic resonance. It had evolved over millions of years of survival against impossible odds. Every challenge humanity had faced, every predator, every ice age, every war, every plague had left a mark on the human mind. Those marks had accumulated layer upon layer until they formed something unprecedented in the galaxy. A defense mechanism, a mirror, a trap. When the Ascended tried to enter human minds, they triggered this defense. The mirror reflected back at them everything they were, every crime they had committed, every life they had destroyed, every moment of cruelty they had inflicted across 10,000 years. They saw themselves truly, without illusion, without excuse, and they could not survive the vision. The irony, Beth noted, was that humans did not know they had this power. They could not control it. It activated only when something tried to dominate them psychically. It was a weapon that could not be used on purpose, only in response to aggression. "We are not special because we are strong," Beth wrote in her conclusion. "We are special because we endure. Every scar on our collective soul, every wound we have survived has made us into something the universe has never seen. We are the species that refuses to die. And when something tries to kill us, it finds that we are made of everyone who has ever lived and died to bring us to this moment." On the lunar colony, Pete Callahan watched his daughter receive her promotion on a video screen. Meg Callahan was a captain now, commander of her own ship. She would be joining the fleet that was heading out to explore the galaxy. "I'm proud of you, sweetheart," Pete said. Meg smiled. "I know, Dad. I know. Just be careful out there. We don't know what else is waiting." "That's the point," Meg replied. "We don't know. And we want to find out. That's what makes us human. She paused, and her expression became thoughtful. "Dad, do you ever wonder what they saw? The Ascended, I mean. What did they see when they looked into our minds?" Pete thought about it. He thought about all the stories he knew. Stories of wars and disasters, of heroes and villains, of ordinary people doing extraordinary things just to survive another day. He thought about his grandparents, who had lived through famine. He thought about his parents, who had built a life from nothing. He thought about himself, working day after day to create something that would outlast him. "I think they saw all of us," he said finally. "Everyone who ever lived. Every human being who ever struggled and suffered and refused to give up. They saw our entire history, compressed into a single moment. And it was too much. It was too real. It was too human." The years continued to pass. Humanity spread across the stars. They found allies among the former slaves of the Dominion. They explored worlds no one had ever visited. They built stations and colonies and ships that would have seemed like magic to their ancestors. And everywhere they went, the story followed them. The species that had destroyed the Ascended. The people who carried something ancient and terrible in their minds. The humans. Some species feared them. Some worshipped them. Most simply watched from a distance, unsure what to make of these strange, short-lived creatures who had done what no one else could. Commander Zethari's final log was eventually found in the Eternal Throne's records. Her words became famous across the galaxy, a warning and a mystery. "They do not know what they are. Perhaps they never will. But we know, and knowing has unmade us." Humanity never fully understood what those words meant. They never completely grasped the power that lived inside them. But perhaps that was the point. Perhaps the greatest strength was the kind you did not know you had, the kind that revealed itself only when everything was on the line. The humans stepped into the galaxy not as conquerors, but as survivors. And the universe learned to make room for them, because some prey should never be hunted, and some species are stronger than they know.